By the end of October 1942, the city on the Volga still has not fallen. German soldiers listen to the Führer on the radio. We have taken Stalingrad. A few pockets of resistance remain. We will take them one by one. It's just a question of time. For Hitler, Stalingrad has come to represent his victory over Russia. After 2 years of fighting in the east, the front is at a standstill. In the north, Leningrad is still surrounded by the Germans. After 700 days of siege, the Soviets continue to resist. In the center, Moscow, the target city, remains a mirage for the Germans. In the south, the drive towards the Baku oil fields has come to a halt in the Caucasus Mountains. In Stalingrad, the Russians are holding their ground. Contrary to Hitler's declarations, Soviet boats continue to cross the Volga, bringing over reinforcements. Every day, thousands of young men, sometimes without any weapons or military training, are disembarked on the riverbanks. Those who back away from the German shells are ruthlessly executed by the political commissars. One officer, Colonel Ludnikov, declares, "We fight for each and every meter of earth, but our meter is different. It is the Stalingrad meter. Every centimeter counts. We bite the earth. We do not retreat." The Germans try to drive them out with flamethrowers. Stalingrad is a raging inferno. On November 7th, the anniversary of the revolution, the beleaguered soldiers holding Stalingrad and the Russian troops all along the front listen to their commander-in-chief Stalin make this astonishing declaration. Tomorrow there will be celebrations in our streets. And indeed, General Zhukov, the man who saved Moscow, has a plan. To keep those niches of resistance fighting until the very end, in order to retain the German troops of General Paulus inside Stalingrad. On the other side of the Volga, Zhukov is secretly putting together an entire army. Every man has to take an oath to Stalin.
Товарищ Сталин! Товарищ Сталин! Клятвенно обещаем! Клятвенно обещаем! Что не пощадим! Что не пощадим! Своих сил! Своих сил! Крови! Крови! И самой жизни! Самой жизни!
The country has been ravaged. 1/4 of its territory lost. But the entire Soviet Union is toiling away to provide this new army with huge amounts of equipment. Factories that were moved out and rebuilt on the Asian border are operating 24 hours a day. In this endeavor, countless lives will be sacrificed. It is the winter of 1942. The women working in these unheated, sometimes roofless workshops are cold and hungry. Many will die of exhaustion. But the country's industrial production will increase tenfold. The United States is now providing massive aid to Russia. The Allies are able to reduce the threat posed by German submarines in the North Atlantic by forming protected convoys to Soviet ports such as Murmansk. Anti-communism is a thing of the past. For the Americans, Joseph Stalin is now Uncle Joe. And for the British, he is good old Joe. The Russians receive huge shipments of jeeps, tanks, planes, and trucks, and cans of corned beef. When they open the tinned meat, the Russian soldiers joke, "We're opening the second front." Along with Stalin, everyone expects the Allies to do more in order to alleviate their plight. Why don't they create a second front? Why don't they land in the West? In Egypt, however, the British are being threatened by the Germans. Rommel, whom Hitler has just promoted to Field Marshal after his victories in the desert, and his tank army, the Afrika Korps, are getting dangerously close to the Suez Canal. They have reached El Alamein. The British Empire is in peril. The British Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, comes to encourage his army in the desert. The situation is grim, but he retains his sense of humor. He says, "The secret to good health is to drink, smoke, and above all, to do no exercise." And yet, he is just recovering from his first heart attack. He meets with the newly appointed General Montgomery. Montgomery wasn't Churchill's first choice, and all of these soldiers in the desert are a little worried. The British, the Australians, the New Zealanders, the South Africans, and the Free French. As soon as he arrived, Montgomery, the son of a clergyman, ordered a new program of strict rules and discipline to be imposed. One of his officers, Captain Belcham, remembers, "What struck us was that he was small and thin. He wasn't tanned like the rest of us." He said a few words for the occasion. "We're going to fight at El Alamein, and we'll come out of it dead or alive." And he hung a picture of Rommel in his tent. Montgomery is the opposite of Rommel. He is cautious. He waits until his army is superior in terms of both men and equipment. The new American Sherman tanks, for example, built for speed and power. But paths still need to be cleared for them through the minefields. Captain Belcham explains, "There is nothing more horrible. Everyone had planted mines, millions of them.